Welcome to the Baldy's Breakdown edition of the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk, thrilled to welcome back in the Baldy himself, Brian Baldinger. What's up, dude? How are you? Long time.
John, happy New Year to you, man. Happy holidays, all that kind of good stuff. Good to be with you here today. It's been a little while, but I'm glad we're back here.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And, well, I'm going to ask you the question that I got many times from callers on our post-game show on Sunday and from our Big Blue Kickoff Live callers on Monday. How'd the Giants do that? And where's that been the last 2 months?
Well, it's actually the old saying, John, that players make plays. So Malik Neighbors was unstoppable yesterday. Drew Lock had good protection for the most part yesterday against a good front. A team, I think the Colts led the league in sacks last year, or second to Baltimore, but they got good pass rushers, but they blocked him up front, and Drew saw the field really well. He kind of anticipated certain coverages, and knew where to go with the ball. So they all contributed, whether it was Slayton on that touchdown because they wanted to go to Malik Neighbors. So I think it was players made plays, all of them, whether it's Tracy's 40-yard run or whether it's Wandale, breaking a tackle and going. That's what's been missing.
And just give me the player perspective, Baldy, here, because obviously I've got a lot of fans complaining about losing the first overall pick. And again, who knows what's going to happen this week? Things can change. The Giants are at 4 now. Who knows if the best player is even going to go first overall in the draft in April? Yeah. We don't know if that's going to be the case either, right? But nobody in the building, coaches, players, give two what's about that. These guys are playing for their lives here.
John, did you see the reaction when Drew ran that 5-yard scramble into the touchdown? It was like they just won a playoff game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the feeling. And, I know fans have their perspective. I get that, John.
Yeah, me too.
But players hate losing. They hate it. And I don't care when they can win, there's no better feeling. And you can go out there and practice. And if you just keep losing, it's just it gets depressing, especially the holidays. You don't want to see family. You don't want to see your friends. To win a game like that yesterday and to win in the fashion that they did, that was a complete team effort.
Yeah, it really was. So let's throw in Neighbors. You brought him up already, Baldy. That's going to be the featured player in your breakdown that's going up on our YouTube channels and our social media platforms too. We were kind of waiting for this, right? We got a taste of this the first 4 games of the year, went out with the concussion, came back, still had a lot of catches, still had a lot of targets. You got a couple of contested catches down the field over the last couple of weeks, but you didn't see the run after the catch stuff really until this week, where he looked like that explosive guy. He gets the ball, he gets the top speed right away, strong enough to break tackles. That finally showed up in weeks, 17 against the Indianapolis Colts.
I mean, look, the little hitch outside, and he just breaks 2 tackles, goes 59 yards, John. I mean, there's not many guys that do that in this business like that. I mean, the Colts defense got good players. The jump ball against Kenny Moore, Kenny Moore is looking up at him, and he's like somewhere, I don't know what kind of hang time he had on that. But we see an unbelievable hang time. We see the finish. The unbelievably explosive first step to separate, and then the strength just to break tackles like he did throughout the game.
Yeah, and then Tyrone Tracy, for the most part, was held in check. We did see the one explosive run early in the game, and I'll get to the run blocking in a second. But for only the third rookie duo to go over 1,000 scrimmage yards with 2 guys in the history of the league, which is a pretty good number. I really do think the Giants have a running back in Tyrone Tracy that can be a starter for a long time.
I don't think there's any question. Because we've seen it behind a juggled offensive line. Yesterday, Van Roten's at center. They've got, Jake in there at right guard. I mean, it seems like they've had a lot of different combinations in there. But the consistent factor is the explosive runs that Tyrone has done throughout the season. The contact balance that he has, the vision, I believe they've got themselves a good starting running back for a while.
And it's funny, you brought up the good pass protection. I think for the most part this year, Baldy, the story's been the run blocking has been pretty good from the line. And the pass blocking, at least the last few weeks, hasn't been quite as good. It kind of flipped on its head in this game, right? And I think you saw early in the run game from this line, I think it was the second play of the game, Kubas tries to pull around, he trips over Van Roten's foot, falls down. And I think you saw in the run game in this game how it does take these lines time to build some chemistry, and you haven't had GVR, Greg Van Roten, Stinney, and Kubas play together. And I think that was pretty apparent throughout the game that the stuff in the run game wasn't really together because the chemistry in this group wasn't where it needed to be.
You know, if any fan could ever just go to the sidelines after a series and listen to the offense line coach, look at the pictures, and go, okay, how do we block the Mike linebacker? We blocked him in practice on Wednesday and Thursday, but he's not where he was on Wednesday and Thursday. Like, we got to, how we going to fold block this? We're going to pull the tackle. We're going to pull the guard. Like, there's so many different things that have to be adjusted during the game. I don't care. I mean, I don't care if you're the Eagles and, you know, you're blocking for, you know, that piece that they have. There's adjustments that have to be made during the game. And if you haven't played next to each other for any period of time, sometimes those adjustments are difficult to get made.
And I want to give Drew Lock some credit. He played well. Now, it helps when, again, you have Malik Neighbors catching 2 passes outside of, 5 yards in the air, and he runs them 80 combined yards for a touchdown. That helps. But that back shoulder throw to Malik Neighbors that he caught at the goal line was an unbelievable throw. He put the ball where he needed to. I thought his pocket presence in this game, Baldy, stepping up and avoiding some of that outside rush was very good. He played his best game as a pro, maybe the best game a Giants quarterback has played all year.
I don't think there's any question about it. You know, they had a great game as a group up in Seattle this year, being a pretty good team. But this was the best quarterback play that we've seen. And, you know, people want to pick apart the Giants, and it's all fair game right now, John. But when your quarterback is converting third downs, the way they were converting third downs yesterday and staying on the field, I mean, it makes a difference. You can get into your game plan. You can get into plays that you've drawn up during a week to attack certain things because you're still on the field and you're converting those. And that's what Drew did. He did a great job of converting. Some of them were third and longs too, and where they were able to stay on the field yesterday.
Yeah, I thought Wanda Robinson had his best game of the year too, right? He had the drop late, but then he made the diving catch to play after to make up for it. He had that little hitch route in the middle of the field for 10 yards. Then he broke 3 tackles, ran for 30. I thought he had a really, really strong game, especially in some of those third down situations you were talking about.
The third down, the 38-yard run where I don't know how many tackles he broke. He showed, you know, real strength there. The block that he got on Malik Neighbors, 59-yard touchdown, just to get his shoulder, just to get a little screen right there, probably helped Malik. He might have scored anyways, but, you know, he did what he was supposed to do on that play when he was. So, I thought, you know, he really looks like a talented slot receiver, you know, and that's what his home is. And they got him the ball yesterday in a couple of key spots.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, let's go to the defense quickly. Allowed over 400 yards, left a lot to be desired, but they did make some key plays. For the first time all year, Baldy, the Giants won the turnover ratio, 3-0. Makes a big difference when that happens, right? You combine that, they had 6 plays of 38 yards more. The first time they did that all year. The most plays they had over 30 yards in a game before this one was the Steeler game. They were actually 2-3 in the red zone. So all those kind of big things came together. Big plays. For once, the Giants were making them in these games instead of coming up short in some of those big play situations.
Well, the interception by Dane Belton is just, you know, I mean, that's just a great play. You know, I mean, first of all, he's catching the ball like a great wide receiver.
Yeah. Over
his shoulder, tracking the ball, you know, laying out for it, you know, possessing and pulling it into his body before he gets to the ground. I mean, those are the type of play. I mean, that's only the 4th interception, I think, all year at that point in the game. And you know, they haven't been getting their hands on footballs. But I thought Dave Belton played a great game, and that interception was probably his best play.
Anything else in this game that you want to touch on, Baldy, before we move on to some big picture stuff?
Well, I mean, you look, they're pulling guys off the street. I mean, Ty's out there. Ty Summers. I remember Ty Summers at TCU. You know, and he's bounced around the league. He's been in Green Bay. He's been in a lot of, you know, he's out there battling like crazy. You know, we always say this time of the year, well, what is there to play for? Well, Ty Summers is playing for a spot in the NFL. He just went out and got 11 tackles yesterday. Now, albeit they gave up yards. Jonathan Taylor's a premium back. But, you know, and he's not the fastest guy, but he made a lot of plays yesterday. Like, you know, you see that for Brian Burns. He's had a good
played
season.
Great, man.
He's just a very electric player. You know, he gets to the quarterback. He has an explosive first step that hasn't slowed down at all. And even when Flacco was getting rid of the ball, I mean, Burns was around him, close to him, trying to chop at the ball. He's just a really good, talented player.
And I'll be honest, he's been a lot better in the run game this year than I thought he was going to be, Baldy. He engages, he uses his length well, he keeps the defenders off of him. And even with the record the way it is, it's really easy as it is an edge rusher to kind of check out a little bit in the run game and just kind of go through the motions. That has not been the case with him this year. He has stayed very much engaged in the run game.
He's a pro. He's a pro. And it'd be easy, honestly, to get the contract that he got, okay, and then to have the season that they're having, just to start thinking about what I'm going to do this offseason. And it doesn't appear with Brian that that's any of it. And so that's encouraging. Nunez Rocha's inside, battling like crazy, made a couple of plays. So I thought the effort from some of the players was really pretty stood out, even though they gave up a lot of yards and more points than they wanted to.
Another one of those street guys out there is just Elijah Garcia, too. He's a guy that kind of brought up as a practice squad guy. He's kind of your old school. I was talking to Andre Patterson about this, the Giants defensive line coach. He's like, he's that old school 4-3 strong side defensive end you don't see anymore. He's like 295. Yeah. He's long. He's not a great athlete, but he's strong. He's good against the run, and he just does a lot of the dirty work into that you don't really see from some of these modern-day NFL ends.
No, I agree. They don't even come in that size anymore, John.
Yeah.
That literally exactly what you talk about. Line up in a 17 technique over the, inside eye of the tight end, take on the tackle. You want to run strong side. Okay, you got to get through this. I mean, those are staples of a type of player that can rotate depending on down distance situation and who you're playing against.
Huddle up, get in here. If you're lined up here, you got to go over the middle with it to score.
Right. How do we make that happen?
I don't know, but Citizens does. Make sense of your money with Citizens. Official bank of Eli Manning.
Giants Huddle podcast brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day celebrations to your everyday financial needs, Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. All right, Baldy, some bigger picture stuff I want to talk to you about. We talked about on our programming here, and we had texted back and forth after that Cowboy game when Evan Neal had a very tough game. He was on the ground a lot, did not play well in that game. I think he's been notably better since then. He's been on the ground much less.
Yeah,
I'm still not sure the future is a tackle because I think one of the reasons he had a lot of trouble in that game is because he's dealing with an elite athlete of Micah Parsons, right?
Yeah.
And I'd love to get your take on this. If you can slide him inside and have him working in a little bit more of a phone booth and guys aren't as athletic, and we even saw in this Colts game, he had some double teams with Kubas on that right side where they're moving people. He wrenches one guy to the ground on one play and pancakes him. I feel like if you can get him working in those boxes and he can use his strength, that I think he could be a useful player at guard. What are your thoughts on that?
I want to see his athleticism in their guard. I mean, I know people put tackles that don't look athletic enough to protect the edge to go inside. It's a common thing to try and do. We do it from college players to NFL players, go from tackle to guard.
Different game.
I want to see what his foot quickness at guard is like, getting to the second level. John, I'm a little concerned. He has played better, though. There's no question. He's much better. Maybe the ankle is stronger. I'd like to see him with a really healthy, good offseason, all right? Because he does move people. His strength is he does move people in the run game. But, and that's a part of what gets you on the field. The other part, obviously, is protecting against these, the Brian Burnses and Micahs and those guys on the edge, which does give him trouble. So I want to see him with an offseason healthy, get stronger, work on his footwork, really get an offseason in the offseason program, because he didn't have that last year. And so I really want to see that this year and play around with him at guard and see if he can either be a starter or rotational guy right now, because there is something to be said. Like, for example, like Mekhi Becton just couldn't do it with the Jets, couldn't stay healthy, couldn't stay on the field. He's playing guard now. And if you want to look for a comp, there's a little bit of a comp there. Mekhi Becton in the run game in Philly is a big reason why Saquon just went over 2,000. He's been outstanding. And he still has some issues, but his power, and Lane Johnson will tell you, you're playing tackle next to him, and he gets that thing moving. He gets a little bit of you can start to move the line of scrimmage. So I think there's a place, and by no means would I give up on him. But I do want to see him in an offseason. I like to see that if that transition can be made.
And when you talk about, I want to get a little technical here because I know you love the offensive line talk. When you're talking about that quickness at guard, because you're right, things get on you a lot faster at guard, right? Guys are lined up right on your face. You don't have as much time. And then you mentioned the second level stuff. Some of the issues, I know he can sometimes get out over his skis a little bit and tilt and lose balance going forward. When you're trying to get to the linebacker on the second level with their quickness, that's when some of that can kind of come into play a little bit, right?
Well, I mean, first of all, in order to get to the second level, you have to take good angles. All right. And these guys are running. I mean, one of the reasons why we've seen a shift in this league right now, John, where the teams that are winning a lot are running it more than they're throwing. I mean, you just go Baltimore, Washington, Philly, go around the league, you can see it. But because the linebackers have just gotten so light, they're basically pumped up safeties. So these guys are running, and so you've got to take good angles to get there. Because if you don't block that second level, you're not going to get like the explosive run that Tyrone got yesterday. You've got to get that level blocked. And so for a guard, it's imperative whether you're pulling on powers or you're trapping or your backside cutoffs to get to those linebackers that are on the move. Any kind of a toss, they're flying. I mean, that's what I want to see if he can get to that second level.
No, great point. Otherwise, on the offensive line, Baldy, if you come back next year, how are you feeling about this group, right? You have hoping Andrew Thomas is healthy left tackle. He spoke a couple weeks ago, said he should be good to go. You have Illuminor as a potential right tackle. You have Evan Neal back. If you bring back Greg Van Roten as kind of like a swing center guard type, Schmitz comes back, Runyon's still here. Do you want to add another piece? How do you view this offensive line moving forward based on what we saw from the group when they were healthy earlier in the year?
Illuminor's been a good player. I mean, he played really well at left tackle yesterday. I mean, that Latu's a good pass rusher. You didn't have any problem with him. Illuminor's been good. That was a good signing. Van Roten has been much better than I thought he would be honest with you. He's always been sort of a backup guy, but he can really swing inside. Runyon was solid before the injury, and he's never really had any injuries before. This is really the first.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a place for just a mauler, just a bigger, stronger guy at a guard position that you could go to right now. Because the tackles are getting so big. The defensive tackles, you watch them, watching, this kid Sealer, watching Zach Allen. I'm watching these big, powerful guys inside. You got to match power with power. You're going up against Dexter Lawrence. You need bigger people inside right now. So I feel like there's a place for a big, not necessarily a first-round pick or, a high-priced free agent, but because they've got some depth now. I think they can line up and play with five, especially if Andrew stays healthy. I feel like they can man the edges with Jermaine or Evan and Andrew. If they got a little bigger, stronger inside, and the depth that has been developed because the guys that had it playing, including Aaron Stinney, who played good yesterday, I feel like they'd have real depth for the first time in a long time.
No, I'm with you on that. What do you think about the wide receiver core? Obviously, we've seen what Malik Neighbors can do. Darius Slayton's going to be a free agent. Jalen Hyatt's heading into year 3. Hasn't done a ton in his first 2 years. We talked about Wan'Dale Robinson. Do you want to add a big X? Like, do you think that's kind of like the final piece to this basketball team of wide receivers? Or should they use their resources elsewhere and you're good heading into next year with some combination of that group?
Well, you got Malik on a rookie contract, and he's your star. Now, I remember when Minnesota had Justin Jefferson and went out and drafted Jordan Addison.
Right.
And you say, okay, can you coexist with 2 number ones? Because that's what Jordan Addison is. He's the number one. And they've made it work. And, they've got their, Jalen Naylor. They've got their guys that fill in. But I feel like in this league right now, you want to go try and take Justin Jefferson away. Jordan Addison beat Green Bay yesterday. So I feel like especially if they, Slayton is gone, and I honestly don't know what Jalen Hyatt is at this point because we just don't see him, and I don't know if he's just a go route guy, just an outside. But I feel like there's a place for another elite receiver for this Giants team.
Yeah, I could totally see that as well. All right, let's jump to the defensive side of the ball. The pass rush. Dexter obviously will come back. He hasn't really been hurt much. Elbow injury, put him out for the rest of the year. We talked about Burns. Kayvon has been hot and cold over the course of the year since he's been back healthy. Do you think you need to add another defensive tackle next to Dexter to try to shore up the run defense? What do you think the focus should be up front on defense?
I think they need more depth at defensive tackle. The great teams that are alive and going play in January right now. For example, Kansas City just played on Christmas without Chris Jones. I mean, he's as dominant as a defensive tackle, and you didn't even notice the difference. Like the good teams right now, John, are 4 deep at that position, and they play all 4. I feel like Dexter, as good as he was this year, I feel like he's almost playing too many snaps. Now, it's a credit that he's in condition that he can play 80% of the snaps. But I feel like over the course of 17 weeks, 17 games, I think he would even benefit if he played fewer snaps and you had a real rotation inside defensive tackle. So I think there's a place to draft somebody in there right now.
If you want to know how to manage 2 minutes of crunch time football, I'm your man. But if you're wondering about a long-term financial plan, you should talk to Citizens. Hey, I can also talk lawn care.
I'd like to learn about a mowing routine.
Yes, I knew I could help. Make sense of your money with Citizens.
All right, and this kind of relates back to this past game. I didn't bring it up in the game review because I knew we would touch on it here. I think a lot of the focus offseason, Baldy's going to have to be on the secondary, right? Joe Flacco threw for over 300 yards in this game. Adoree Jackson is on a 1-year deal. Who knows if he's going to be back? Tyler Nubin's out for the year, but he played pretty well. Jason Pinnock's a free agent. Gordo Flott's heading into his 4th year now. You know, he's been in and out of the lineup with injuries. I think you like what you see from Drew Phillips. You like what you see from Tyler Nubin. And then you get to Deonte Banks, who, once again, is in good position on a lot of these plays. He's running with these wide receivers. He just doesn't finish them. He grabs when he doesn't have to. He loses his balance. He loses his leverage. He does these things that are frustrating because you see the talent, you see his ability to mirror and hang with these guys, but he just doesn't execute at the catch point and when he needs to make plays at the ball.
Well, the defensive pass interference penalty, we've just seen too many. That's just a panic play, John. It's a panic play.
And he doesn't have to panic. He's in good position.
He's in good position. And you panic and you give up a 40-yard play. Like, those plays killing you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're not going to go, they score. They get back in the game like this. And he was the 3rd corner taken in that draft. I think he was the 3rd corner taken. And he was highly thought of. He played well against Marvin Harrison at Maryland, against Ohio State. There's games. But he's the one defensive player that has to take a jump this year. You've got to have corners that can play. I mean, you're going around the league right now, and you're looking at these defenses. Like, you've got to have guys that can lock up and play on the outside without getting their hands on guys, without committing penalties. And you've got to be a participant in the tackling game. And so he's got to make up his mind. Because you can coach these guys all you want. He's got to make up his mind that he wants to be a great player.
Yeah, and he has it in him. He has the physical ability to do it. He just got to figure some of that stuff out. All right, I buried the lead, I suppose. Quarterback. Because we can fix all these things. If you don't fix the quarterback spot. I mean, it's hard to say none of it matters, but it matters a lot less if you don't have the right guy behind center. We saw that with the way Drew Lock played this week. It just changes everything when your quarterback plays really well, right? So we don't know where the Giants are going to draft yet. You haven't done your full study of the quarterbacks in the draft. I haven't finished mine either, so we're not there yet. What do you think overall, though, is the best approach here for the Giants in the offseason? Is it do what the Falcons did, where you get the vet and then you draft 2, you do both, you just throw a bunch of darts? How do you think the Giants should best approach the quarterback situation this offseason? Because right now they have no one under contract heading into 2025.
Well, we've seen a lot of these rookie quarterbacks have success, none more than Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's completely turned a Morgan franchise around in 1 year. His overtime drive yesterday against Atlanta. I mean, it's just the guy is just poised beyond belief. In fact, when he throws the winning touchdown pass in overtime to Zach Ertz, everybody else is jumping on Zach Ertz. He's literally just standing there like almost his poise reminds me of Eli. That's something Eli would do, in a championship game. Like, this is what I'm here to do. He's not pumping his fist and jumping on top of guys. Like, he's literally, that's my job, deliver the ball. Now maybe he's just a generational talent once every whatever, but you get that guy in your building with what they have, you could turn things around in 1 year. It can be done. And so I don't know the quarterbacks. Jaden was taken number 2. They felt like they got the best player. I think that Michael Penix Jr. is going to be a really good player. Played well yesterday. He needs timing with some of his guys. I think Bo Nix is right there on the doorstep of taking this team to the playoffs in Denver. So we've seen young guys have success, and we've seen it in different ways, John, to answer your question. We've seen Penix back up all year long behind the veteran, okay, and now inserted to see if he can rescue the season. We've seen Bo Nix with an elite play caller and coach really develop and come on and have a great year. Jaden Daniels with the right pieces around him, and I don't think they're done building yet. But you can see, 11 wins for that team. Nobody could have predicted what they've done so far.
Let me ask you about one veteran, just because we've seen Michael Penix start, and I think we'd all be surprised if Kirk Cousins is on the Falcons next year. Obviously, he is still their property. So, if it so happens that he becomes available or made available, 1 year coming off Achilles, obviously over 35-year-old quarterback. He did not play well when the last few weeks before they took him out for Penix. I don't know how much of that is health or what. None of us do except for Kirk Cousins, right? What do you think he has left in the tank? Because I'm sure he's going to be one of the guys when the quarterback game of musical chairs begins and there's a lot of empty seats. Teams are going to have to find guys to fill it, and he's probably going to be one of those guys.
Well, I was of the belief, because I saw him play twice down the stretch, and it was more than a slump, John. It was more than a slump. He couldn't put the ball where he wants to put it, where he wants to. Now, the offense was a little odd. He was a shotgun offense. He'd been under center a great deal, play action pass. Maybe people told me that maybe he was in shotgun 95% of the time because maybe he couldn't pull away from center with that Achilles injury, coming back from it to get the explosive first step that you need. I thought it was more than a slump. And you watch that last game he played against the Raiders, he could not get away from any kind of a rush at all. Now, maybe a year removed from that, he'll have a lot more mobility, at least enough to elude a four-man rush and find the opening to keep your eyes down the field and make the throw. It'd be a gamble in my eye, because the last thing you want to do is invest in somebody that truly is at the end and doesn't have much left. And my thinking, honestly, is I felt like we were watching the end of a really good career.
Yeah, look, it's tough. I saw with Aaron Rodgers, right? When you're that age and you get that type of lower body injury, I think what we're going to learn here, Baldy, is that Tom Brady was the exception. It's not the rule when it comes to playing after 40 years old, right?
Well, we didn't see it from Drew Brees. We didn't see it from Peyton. We didn't just
or Eli. Or Eli or Matt Ryan.
Or Eli at the end. You can only fool Father Time so long, and maybe Brady is just the outlier for all of us. But we've seen Brett Favre, we've seen all these elite players. At the end, it looked like maybe they stayed too long, and you can't fault them, whatever. But I just think you're looking at a young man's game, and I think that's how you have to sort of invest. Now, the one guy that might hit the market, maybe he doesn't, is Sam Darnold. He's just playing outstanding. I was saying again yesterday, just an outstanding day with everything on the line. We'll see him against Detroit on Sunday with everything on the line for number one seed. I don't think this thing is going to go backwards. I just think this is where he's at right now.
Yeah, I don't know how the rest of the season is going to go, and maybe it'll change things. If you're the Vikings, how do you let that guy walk out the door, man? My goodness, how good has he been? And he's getting better. Every week he looks better.
No, the decision-making, the offense, just his overall movement, it's what the Jets thought they were getting, 6-7 years ago. But he's in a stable place with a great play caller and great talent all the way around. And he's just facilitating it all. But he's making great decisions. And I talked to the general manager up there and he said they don't have to make any decision. They can let this thing play out. And if they go deep in the playoffs, or who knows, then they can make that decision at that time.
Wait, Baldy, are you telling me that an ecosystem around a young quarterback is important for their development? No way. I don't believe that for a second. No way.
Yeah. It's that old thing, John, that you identify the guy that you never stop building around him, ever. And you just keep giving him as much help as possible.
Giants Huddle Podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. Citizens will donate $750 to the Giants Foundation for each scoring drive during the 2024 season. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. Baldy, this is great. I'm sure we'll do stuff in the offseason. Thank you so much for being part of our content this season. We really appreciate it. Happy holidays. Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Likewise, John. All the best. All the best to you and your family.
And remember, go check out Baldy's breakdown on our YouTube channel, our social media platforms. For Brian Baldinger, I'm John Schmeelk. That's the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. Happy New Year.